Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rambling Toffee podcast. I am Mark. I hope everybody is doing really well this Monday morning or Monday afternoon as I'm recording this. Um, it's a very eventful week being an Evertonian. I've got lots of things to discuss and a lot of things to go through. Um, so I'm going to start right at the beginning. As you can guess, a very sad day on Tuesday when we lost the chairman, Bill Kenwright, at the age of 78 to obviously cancer, and kind of knew that he was seriously ill over the last few months or so, or longer probably. But it was a sad day when that was announced. My views, probably, if you've listened to this podcast, has always been very critical of him as it came to the club and the running of the club, not just as the chairman but also as the owner at the time. Um, and for me, on that front, the decline of the football club, you have to put it on him. He was the one who influenced, the way the direction of the football club was going in. And yes, he did a lot of really good stuff. Not just for Everton and the community, for lots of fans and lots of people, and he was very supportive of Hillsborough, the Hillsborough campaign and everything else. And there's a lot of really positive stuff. And I've seen interviews with him, and he talked really well again about Everton. Of course, he will. He's an Evertonian, as much as how things have gone over the last few years under the owner of Mashiri and the way the club has just been run. On a week to week basis and everything else, and being in the position that we currently are in. But that's for another day, and that will continue on as we go through this takeover. But for me, on that front, yes, that's where I'm very critical of him. But on a personal level, he did some wonderful things for charities, wonderful things for the club as well. There were some positive things that he did do, and he come across as as Bill would people will say, very passionate about Everton, passionate about the club, passionate about the players, remembering in the time the stories and everything else. And we have to remember that element about him, remember that. And also, he's a business in the theatre world and everything else. He was loved by many people. I didn't know him personally, and I only know him from interviews and other things like that. But all I can see, and I will say, is that from a business level, we've declined over the many years. So I send these condolences out to his family, his friends, and everybody who knew him. You know, rest in peace. Bill. I hope you're at peace now, and hopefully, looking further up and looking down on the club, that we can start seeing the team, seeing the club moving forward, going into Bramley-Moore Dock and everything else. But at this moment in time, we're still very much in limbo. And as we move away from that sad day and everything that took place, it didn't, as I mentioned previously about communication from the club, but previously I wish the club would defend themselves more and come out fighting, especially about a day after the passing of Bill Kenwright. That the Daily Telegraph report, that the Premier League want to give Everton Football Club 12-point deduction after this independent inquiry. Inquiry has gone through. That's what they're chasing. Obviously, they've leaked that to them, and then of course it just blew up, and it just feels like here we go again. Premier League seem to be getting away with absolute murder at the moment, and no disrespect to any other club that have gone through issues or anything like that. It just feels like they just want to find a club, somebody that they can show how powerful they are, that they can prove a point, that they can actually say to yes, you're going to get 12 points deducted. This is what we want to do. We're going to really go to town on you, and put us in a position that we could get relegated from. And at the moment, we don't know. We don't know what is being investigated. Obviously, that inquiry, the independent inquiry, is ended. So we'll find out in the next 2 3 weeks uh, what is our fate, basically. But I know even if we find we are guilty, obviously I think we'll appeal that going forward. But I just wish the club, after the amount of the national media, predominantly TV and everything else, completely always critical of the club in every way and any way possible. And I can understand financially, yes, we are struggling. We're going by 777 partners who are paying a loan to the club at the moment to keep the club running, basically. And what I found out this week, obviously, is that that's going to get turned into equity if they do not take a full takeover of the football club. So at the end of the day, they're still going to invest in the club, whatever will happen, whatever will be, will be. But before I get on to the positives of the result yesterday, I just need to get this out there because there's got to be a call to arms here that we as Evertonians, every every day for the last 2 3 years or even longer, it's just been bash, bash, bash. The media bashing us constantly. Finding stories that are not real, that they're made up, that they're about the stadium, about the club itself, about the takeover, the investment, everything else, the players, anything else. They find anything negative about the football club, and it's just got to a stage now where I'm getting fed up with it. And I know there are people out there. I don't care what the media think about Everton Football Club, But at the end of the day, there's got to be some sort of positive, you know, from the football club. Yes, we've got this stadium that's currently being built, and hopefully will be completed, and everything else. We move into there. You can look at the positive things, which I've talked about the stadium. I've talked about what it'll be like when we move into this new stadium when that gets completed. Everything is like up in the air, but it's like the media just decide, oh, we'll just make up more and more stories about the club, predominantly about the stadium, predominantly that it's not going to get completed on time, or the money's that not available. Where's the money coming from here? Or because we're so much in debt, or and everything else. Okay, yes, there's a lot of things that we need to know, and that's obviously the question I've asked out there for 777 partners to try and start to talk to the fan base about what their plans are, if they are going to be the people that are going to take over the football club, as much as what I think or what I feel. But the media, you know, I don't know what their hatred is of the football club, of the fan base, of anything. It just there's just genuine dislike, and it's also it feels like the Premier League, the people at the top of the Premier League, they seem to have this dislike, and I don't know if it's come back to the breakaway of the Super League, which was a couple of years ago and a bit longer ago, where you know, we actually stood up and said this is wrong and this shouldn't happen. The 6 clubs who were wanted to do this breakaway, they should have been not just fined, they should have been relegated. They should have been demoted. They should have been deducted points. Something should have been done to actually say you breached rules here. You've done wrong here. But instead of that, yes, they breached rules, but they've just got measly fine, and that's from the Premier League. So we spoke up and we've actually said, no, this is wrong. Something needs to happen. We need an independent regulator. That needs to happen soon because it's getting to a point now where clubs like Everton and other clubs as well, not just in the Premier League, but for financial issues or anything else, it just feels like we're not getting any kind of help, any kind of support because the Premier League are too busy focused on the top 6, and it seems to be the media also are too busy focused on the top 6 clubs who wanted this breakaway because it just absolutely baffles me that when we've got this breach, this is ongoing, and you know, we asked a question to the likes of certain journalists. I won't mention the name, but basically, he said at the time in 2021, in April, he said we shouldn't penalise the fans. We shouldn't penalise, the club because, because of what these clubs did to do a breakaway. What shouldn't penalise them, but they breached rules. So in the same situation as I'm speaking right now, Everton have supposedly breached rules because we could be found that we didn't breach any rules, and we'll be fine at the end of it. We'll find out. We don't know. So, but the question is still being asked. So when you get a journalist asking questions like that, and people then question him, he doesn't come back. He doesn't speak about it. Doesn't say anything. Doesn't acknowledge it. He just continues to spout the same thing, because soon as the clubs back down, those six clubs back down and got back into everything, it was like every national journalist all went all quiet and didn't talk about it anymore. And whenever they did talk about it, it was like, oh, they just seemed to add a bit of sympathy before these six clubs, and to their fans, and to the the employees and the players and everything else. There was a sympathy. And so what's the difference? We're in this situation, yes, with financial situation. If it's proven that we have breached, and if it's proven that we, we've done something wrong, then so be it, in a sense of the word. But the question comes down to is that one rule for one and one rule for others. You know, what if we don't know? What if we have found that we are actually okay and nothing, everything was above board and went that way inclined? The first thing is the Premier League shouldn't leak details to journalists. Then they put stories out there, and then what that does, it gets other national journalists talking about it, and other people talking about Everton, thinking that they should get a deduction in points because this is what the Premier League want. So they just make an assumption and just think that's what should happen. But nothing has been um, confirmed yet. So I'm just fed up, and I just want to put this out to the fan base, to everybody who's listening to this podcast. I'll start off with Everton Toffee TV, who came call to arms to get out there and say, we have to defend ourselves, and we have to siege mentality, not just us as fans, but the club, players, and everything else. And when I say about communication from the club, we do have an interim board there. We do have a communications department. Somebody there should just come out and actually say, we are fed up of journalists and national media making up stories or bashing Everton Football Club on every level, because it's I don't know what it is. It's like an agenda. It's like the Premier League they want to find a scapegoat. They want to find somebody, a club that they can actually say, we can actually we can regulate our Premier League. We don't need an independent regulator. So this is what we're going to do. And finally, I'll just say, we defending ourselves, and we going out there, get the banners, do the things like that, get out there. We need to actually tell everybody out there, we don't care. We don't care what you think about us. We are who we are, and we don't care, if you hate us or you dislike us or whatever else. But we need to start backing ourselves and start pointing fingers at them and asking them questions about why they have this dislike, why they have this agenda, if they have one. Why are you doing this? Pushing it back towards them. Because even if it makes us even more hatred, well, so be it. I don't care. But I'm becoming fed up with this now, and it's going to be ongoing for a while. Whoever we've had managers or anything like that, if it's been a VAR scenario or anything else like that, anything that's gone against us, it just seems to be, nobody cares. All the national journalists and media, all they care about, and the Premier League and TV companies and everything else, they only care about those six clubs, or maybe seven when you now add Newcastle to that list, with all this money and everything else. And I can go on and on and on about this, but I don't, because, you know, yesterday, you know, we've had two defeats in the last so many games, and we seem to be getting a consistency. And it was a great performance yesterday. it was Dyche football at its best, and that's just my opinion on that. Um, do I still think Sean Dyche is the right man for the job, right man for the role? At this precise moment, yes, but if he continues to get results and continues to go in the pathway that we want it to go, because it's still up in the air, things can change week to week. That's the Premier League for you. But yesterday's result was a real positive result, a workmanlike performance, gritty, everything else, putting in a committed, and the energy. I think one of the things. Yes, it felt like a lot watching that game yesterday. It felt like there was the energy was a bit low, and it felt like they were running just ran a marathon. But I think the second half was we were really a lot more full, more energized than we were in the first half, and I just felt we were, the second half specifically, we got ourselves in good positions. Our defensive positions were fantastic, but you know, all I could see from that performance yesterday, and what I'm really impressed about, is the spine in the team now. I think if you look straight across the board, you got Jordan Pickford, and you've got Jared Brantwaite, and you've got Tarkowski in the central positions. In the middle, you've got Garner, and you've got Anana, and then you've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. You've got a strong spine, but what's great is that you've got young players, you know, getting better and better week in, week out, giving game time and getting consistently. But one of the big things is when I found out what the team was going to be yesterday, it was unchanged from the game against Liverpool. The only change, of course, was Patterson coming in, and he was a good young player as well, and he coming in to the team. We got Seamus coming back, but that team was everybody. Yeah, my thinking, that's the team. But it was consistently keeping with the same team week in, week out. Not changing it, not trying this, not trying that, doing anything, keeping the team as it is. Because the more games they play together, the better it will become. And because if you think over the last few years and then the relegation of struggles, every manager that we've had in a period of time, from Lampard, Benitez, even Dyche for a period of time, there's been this chopping and changing of teams each week, changing formations, trying this, trying that, trying to get the best out, of that team week in, week out. So there's been no consistency, but that's also been because of the injuries that we've had and not really having a strong uh, squad of players that we can change and everything else. And what we saw yesterday and what we're seeing gradually and hopefully continues is that if we can keep those players together without any kind of injury, even all right, if we have an injury here or there, but we can change it for somebody else. But if we can keep those players together and for as long as we possibly can, I think we will improve more and more week in, week out, and I can see that, and I think especially with the younger players that we have now. And I think when I looked at the performance yesterday, of course, Jared Brantwaite was just outstanding, out of this world, and just man of the match performance in my opinion. I thought he just marshalled the defence fantastically with James Tarkowski next to him, who did a good captain performance as well. Really, and also now we got kind of a settled defence. I know um, Patterson came into instead of Ashley Young. Along, I hope that will continue. That Patterson will stay in that position. Um, but Mikalenko's improvement, he's getting better and better, and he's starting to move, becoming a winger a little bit more as well. He's starting to get forward a bit more. So gradually, we're starting to see that improvement in his game as well. But as a defensive performance from him, he's just getting better and better. So that's the positive on that. So when you see a defence that is settled, happy with itself, Jordan Pickford's confident with the players he has in front of him, that you get that performance. And what you saw next was the midfield with a settled midfield. So with Harrison now and McNeil and Garner and Anana, you've got a settled midfield as well. And then with Calvert-Lewin back to hopefully his best now. And that goal yesterday was absolutely out of the top drawer. Fantastic how he shifted his way from the two defenders and just knocked it in there. And of course with Decore as well, I'll prepare to mention he was just energised, he's running up and down, and he had an opportunity to get a second goal, but he deserves that extension of his contract as well, because if he has to consistently keep this improvements and keep doing it week in, week out. So we're seeing some really positive displays. As much as watching that game, it typical, it was raining, it was miserable, and the first half was a little bit, one of those even games where just couldn't get going and couldn't get, into the position we want to. But we were, doing the jobs. They knew what they were doing. They were happy with what they're doing, what their plans were. I think also, if I would just put a mention to Nathan Patterson, who thought that had a better second half than the first half. He was getting pulled away a lot in out of position, but second half he was a lot more stronger, a lot more better, and it's just goes from there. And people, one thing I will say as well about that performance yesterday was it was, you know, when we didn't get the ball, we got ourselves back into the right positions. We worked really, really hard off the ball to get the ball back, get ourselves into position because a lot of the times we were getting the ball forward, we were getting into opportunities and placing, opportunities to create chances to score, and that's what we want. But at the end of the day, it's a 1-0 win. It's tough going to West Ham. Yes, they've not doing well the last few games in the league. They've lost the last three, I think. But in Europe, they've had a European game, but it doesn't matter. It's still tough going there and to try and get a result, especially with a team like ourselves, where we're trying to improve and try to get better, and that getting that consistency that we all want. And that hopefully that consistency will continue. We've got the game against Brighton coming up on Saturday, but of course we've got the Carabao Cup game against Burnley on Wednesday, and some one or two people are a bit baffled by the decision to bring Chimiti on instead of Beto in the game, and I think it was probably down to the fact that I think he will start against Burnley on Wednesday, and I think maybe to just to give Chimiti the extra few minutes on the pitch, and he did quite well when he came on. He was getting himself about and everything else, so he did a job when he came on when Calvert-Lewin came off. So we'll see how the formation is going to see how it's going to look on Wednesday. I would guess there will be changes. I will say I hope Michael Keane doesn't get to start. Um, I think he got injured in the warm up, so he may not be even in the team on Wednesday anyway. So, but I just think he is one of those players that doesn't. After I mentioned about the Liverpool game, he shouldn't be playing. He's past his sell-by date, as I call it, and I think when the season's over or in January, I think we may look at letting him go, but we do need backups, so we'll see how that pans out. But I think as a player, I think he's now gone past it, and we need to move on from him. So anyway, we'll see how the team looks on Wednesday, and then we've got Brighton at home. So we got a momentum that we can pick up on, build on the confidence of this result yesterday, pick up, hopefully get a quarter-final berth against Burnley, get a quarter-final opportunity if we can get a result against Burnley, and then we're playing Brighton. It's going to be a tough game at home, but if we can build some momentum and confidence, you never know. That's all I will say on that front. But yes, it's been a very mixed bag of a week with the passing of Bill Kenwright, of course, and the Premier League deciding to be, well, the Premier League, um, hypocritical in so many ways, and the way the media are just reporting on everything that you find negative about Everton Football Club. But we end on a positive note, and we end on going into the game on Wednesday with a momentum, hopefully, and that we can be consistent, that we can go out there and put on the performance that I think these players can do. And as they're getting more and more game time with a lot of the players I've been mentioning, and we're not chopping and changing all the time, I think we're going to be okay, unless we get a 12-point deduction, um, which in my heart I don't think will happen personally. But the way the world is, that we'll probably get it just because it's Everton Football Club, and everybody has an axe to grind against us. So, and on a final note, let's get together. We need to be together, not just as a fan base, but as a club. Whatever the club's doing at the moment, you know, whatever, the takeover or anything else, I think we just need to be unified. And we need to get together, siege mentality, and actually tell the rest of the world, who, if they care, the rest of the world to go and do one, basically. We don't care what you think. We're going to keep on doing what we're doing. We're going to get to where we want to do. And I think if we can get behind the players and support the players, and the players are going to support the fans, and everybody at the club as well, we're all in it together, because it's going to be a tough period of time. We're still in a takeover. We're still battling with finances to try and have things work week to week within financial budget, and trying to keep this club going until that takeover happens, if it does, or whoever else comes in, because the concern is, of course, we could go into administration if the takeover doesn't take place, or we don't have anybody else interested. But we'll just have to see what happens. But on a positive note, the team are starting to perform. We're seeing Dominic Calvert-Lewin hopefully getting back to the best of what he can do, and we're starting to see what we've been missing for a long time. And I'm going to end on a positive note and say, come on, you Blues. Let's keep on going. Let's keep on pushing it. Let's keep on getting better and better, hopefully. And then we can have a better season, and we can be in positive frame of mind. Let's just hope everything off the field gets sorted, and then we can move forward and move into Bramley-Moore Dock in the best possible way possible. So anyway, on that note, thank you again for listening to my podcast. Thank you again for the support and feedback that I've been continually getting. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I do appreciate it more and more every time I do these. I do enjoy doing them. Anyway, so on that note, I'll be back next Monday for my next podcast with the reviews of the Burnley and the Brighton games. So from me and from the Rambling Toffee, have a good week. I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.